I did it, Jason. You didn't have to tell me. But yeah, hi, I'm Andrew. I'm the Assistant Director at the Dubuque County Library District in Dubuque, Iowa. Formerly of Bywater, which is kind of how I ended up here, because I learned too many Koha things, and now I'm trapped forever in some sort of terrible fairy bargain. Yeah. This is the Zoom problem of, we could go around and do introductions, but we're all going to be struggling to figure out what around means. But hey, Bob, who are you?
Hi, Bob Benhoff. I run AspenCat, which is a consortium in Colorado. Lots and lots of libraries.
Yeah, see, that's what happens with Zoom introductions. Quick, somebody else.
Yeah, I'll go. My name's Daniel Gagan. I'm the ILS and database librarian at Pueblo City County Library District. And I'm here for reports and template toolkit.
Hi, I'm Lauren Denny. I'm with SIL International's consortium that's worldwide. And I'm trying to find out a little bit about system preferences that might be causing framework problems.
Just might be.
I'll go. I'm Sally Lodico with the Knox County Public Library, and we migrated from Symphony to Koha in November of 2022. So we're pretty new to all this stuff, but learning our way around. Just want to try to listen in and see what everybody's talking about and start learning more. I'm the Assistant Director for IT for the library system.
I'm Rebecca Coert. I work for Arlington Public Library in Virginia on the IT team. We've been on Koha since June of 2020, and I'm still learning every day. So I'm with you, Sally.
Hi, I'm Anne with the Keller Public Library in Texas. I'm the manager, and we migrated to Koha in fall of 2021. So yeah, we're there too.
I'll go. I'm Jason Drop. I am the Seek and Find Coordinator at the Southeast Kansas Library System. We're a consortium of 49 libraries, 48 publics, and one community college, and we've been on Koha since 2008.
Emily, your timing's great, even without a microphone. That landed just right. Emily says she's from the Montgomery County Public Library, migrated in October of 2022.
I think that just leaves me. Sorry, I was late getting in, so I don't know who. I am Daphne Houlihan, and I work with Interleaf, who support Koha in Ireland. And we've been supporting Koha, I think, for about 10 years now. Now you're probably telling me it's been longer, but it's been such a good time. It's flown past. And I come to these meetings hoping to find that you've all found the problems before I upgrade our clients, and then I can avoid them.
And Barbara just popped in. Hey, Barbara, if you introduce yourself, then our introductions will be complete.
Hi, I'm Barbara Johnson. I am Technical Services Manager at Bedford Public Library in Texas. And we've been on Koha since 2016. And I'm a former koha-US president and glad not to be in that role anymore.
Congratulations. So Rebecca, you said you went live in June of 2020, and I took some sort of psychic damage from that knowledge. Like, that can't possibly be that long ago, but at the same time, it's not that long ago. Surely that was longer ago.
Yeah, it feels like it was 100 years ago. Yeah, bringing it up during a pandemic, I don't recommend that to anyone. ILS migrations are hard enough, but when you're all having to learn how to do it virtually as well.
So we don't have a formal agenda here. Daniel was in the Zoom first and said he had template toolkit questions. So I'm going to Daniel for template toolkit questions.
All right. Well, I've been working on the renewal digest email. And for the first thing is that, has anybody ever or does it have the same problem? The email notice, when it goes out, it does not even look like the notice that appears on the person's account. Is that like bad coding on my part, or is that just kind of the way it is?
So first, do you mean the auto renew digest email?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually just, it seems like notices in general, when you get your email notice, and then it doesn't look anything like the notice that you'll find on the account when you do that. You look at the notices sent.
Sure.
They don't look exactly, they don't look anything alike. Does anybody notice that, or is that just bad coding on my part?
There was a bug with the digest a while ago, but I thought it got fixed. Does that sound familiar, Andrew?
Not terribly.
We had an issue. I know template toolkit looks so much different than the other standard notices that it's like harder to pick stuff out. But if you're getting a completely different message, I'm guessing something's not set up right.
It's not that it's a different message. It's just the formatting is really off when compared from the email to the notices on the user's account.
Emily says in chat that she's seen a lot of extra line breaks too.
Yeah, it's like when I try and do a line break on the notice through email, it's like it's ginormous in the notice on the user's account in Koha.
Daniel, on some different notices, I had some issues where things didn't look right, and Lucas had me minimize my code, and that really helped.
Okay, do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
No, go for it.
Okay.
While you're clicking that, Jason put a bug in chat that does seem pretty relevant, that it's a bug about HTML notices.
Okay, so this
weirdly.
This is my my template toolkit code. I was reading, I think this else if can just be an else, but for the most part, the problem is that when there's several problems, but when this is displayed on the user's account, it's going to show like huge gaps where the breaks are. But when it's an email, the breaks are, are typical of HTML breaks. They're pretty like, I can't think of the term right now, and that's just one issue. And the second issue is that when my report runs, it should, as far as I know, the code says that if for each checkout and check-in, if there was a renewal, post the title, the barcode, and when it was checked, and its new due date. And that should be first on the list. And if there's an error with the checkout, and it says it's on reserve, it's just going to put down here that the items listed below are can't be renewed and that they're on hold for another person. This problem is that when I run this report, or when I run this notice, these get switched. Sometimes the ones that were renewed are below this else if, and this one is above here. So they're reversed. So. And honestly, here's the original template toolkit, and this is just a mess. I mean, I tried it and it was all kinds of gobbledygooked. So
I've been struggling with this notice too, but like different reasons. I've had Lucas looking at it forever. We've tried hundreds of different things. My problem is like it's triggering the notice at odd times. Like it'll tell you that you can't renew anything the day after it's successfully renewed something. So there's lots of issues with this specific notice.
Okay.
in my experience, but I don't know enough about template toolkit to help here.
Because it's like I had it running the last couple of days perfectly, and then just over the weekend it switched. It switched the on reserve with the renewed in the list. And I'm gonna see if give me 1 second, see if I can find an example of the email.
So I've worked with this notice. I actually just spent a bunch of time trying to get it to display the way I wanted and solve that exact problem. Clearly, I've given up on being off microphone. So if you'd like, I can screen share and share my code too.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. So it's like, here's the ones that have been renewed. And they should be under where it says it's been, they've been renewed. And then the one that's on hold, it's like right underneath. So it's weird, but I'm gonna stop sharing, and Emily, if you want to take over, by all means.
Yep, just let me find it. I apologize that I'm going to be showing this in just the Koha window instead of a nice like editor, because my coding computer and my Zoom computer are not the same computer. Let me find it. So mine is huge because I did keep all of the different types of error messages.
Well, now there's someone asking about it. There aren't any brave employees running around in your desk, right? No.
I think somebody's got some background noise going on.
Yeah, that was me, sorry.
All right. Yeah, so I apologize that this is so horrible to look at. But essentially what I did is I printed, there were however many items renewed. And then I did one for each loop here we go. I did one for each loop for everything that did renew successfully. And just put the one if inside there and let it be. And then I did a separate, and then I printed however many items weren't renewed. And I did a separate loop that checked, all of the different error statuses because I wanted all of them. But if you're only wanting those 2 error statuses, yours is not going to look as ugly, but it's just that way, like if it's looping through them, and the first one in the loop happens to be not renewed and the second one happens to be renewed, it's just going to print them in order. So I just put them into separate loops with, the error message, and I also put the due date and all of that.
So when you say in order, it's like in the order it was checked out.
I don't know what order Koha orders them by. I don't know if it's checkout order or if it's ordered by something else. I have not looked into that.
That's my guess. It's just that's why it seemed so random to me. I was thinking that maybe it did it by which one it could renew, and then which one, just the order had been checked out. So
that certainly would make sense. I just can't confirm or deny.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The thing is that when I was using the whole shebang, it gave me all my items that were checked out, and it said that it couldn't renew them. And that's why I kind of been paring down the notice to find out which ones actually seem to work. So yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have all of this in your second loop. You would just have the on hold message.
Right.
The rest
I think the for each is the part that is really missing from your notice though, Daniel. That makes sense that So your patron that ended up with all of their things that checked out listed in the section that was supposed to be for an error, like SQL wise, it would make sense if one of those titles had an error at that logical test. It said, yes, that error is present in this pile of checkouts. And so they all go here.
Yeah, I totally get that. The thing is that it was doing it right for the last couple of days, and then just on Saturday it switched. So, and I didn't do anything. I think I had maybe a break somewhere, but that was it.
Curious.
Yeah, but I'll definitely try what you got there, Emily. Thank you.
Hope it helps.
Does anybody else have template toolkit questions while we're talking about template toolkit? Well, then Lauren said she had some system preference questions. Before we dive into those, Lauren, you gave an acronym in your introduction that I didn't recognize. Was it SIL? Just for my own curiosity.
For your end. Historically, it stood for Summer Institute of Linguistics, because they would teach linguists translation skills in the summer, and then the rest of the year they would go on the field and research. That model has kind of gone away, but we've kept the name because, you know,
sure,
everyone knows it. In the linguist field anyway, or translation field. So I have come across a problem in we have a QA site and a live site. Our QA is on 2205 in the hopes that our live can go on 2205. I am unsupported, so I kind of have to come up with all solutions myself. I do have an IT, we do have two guys who do IT. But I'm hoping that I don't know the answer to my problem. So I discovered recently that the way we have been using frameworks in Koha might not be the way the rest of the world is using frameworks. We have been putting a default value in some of the fields because we want it to populate that value whenever the framework is selected, either in a new record or in an existing record. It's mostly that 3, 3, 6, 7, 8 and item type information that trained catalogers are like, yeah, I know all that. But all of my unexperienced catalogers are like, you want me to what? And it would take them hours to look all that information up. And I'm like, okay, I want to save you time. It takes you, 2 seconds to change the framework and it auto-populate versus looking all that information up. Before 2205, it worked that way. If I put the default value in, it auto-populated with that information in both new and old. In the 2205, it will not auto-populate that information on existing records. It only works in new records. I did look up some bugs, and it looks like they wrote in the code to get rid of it. But there's a system preference in the 2211 that you can select on or off, which makes sense. Some libraries don't want those default values to be auto-populated, and then a group like me does want those. Does anyone else on the 2205, have you found a workaround? Do you use Koha in that manner? Am I all alone and I'm just going to have to wait until we upgrade to the 2211, which is going to be a while because I have to learn the interface is different on 2211, and I have to learn how it all works before I can train everyone else. how it all works. So I'm like, I'm hoping that's not the answer, but that's my fear. Can y'all alleviate my fear? Help me come up with a workaround. And I can try to find those bugs that I'm talking about while y'all are.
Yeah, I think the bug was that in the past, some libraries saw it as a problem that if you were just updating an existing record, previous data could have been affected. So that's why they reported it as a bug, and it's now been fixed, but you don't like the way it's been fixed. And I think then because people made complaints, they introduced the system preference. But the only thing I could suggest for so it is working for new records. You did say that, didn't you?
Yes.
So for
It's just
existing
old
records, the only thing is, could you use a mark modification template? Do the same thing.
So when I tried doing, I kind of had that idea, but it's a lot of steps and it's very complicated. Like a cataloger would have no problem. So actually a cataloger probably wouldn't even use either. A cataloger would just constantly be in the advanced editor and use a macro because that's quick, easy. It's I mean, I have people who are over their HR department who are having to catalog records because there's really, I mean, there's just a small staff, it's a small library, but I'm wanting these records to kind of work with the filters and all this fun stuff. And I'm wanting that to be in the record. So are you saying we just have to wait until the 22? Because the system preference that you can turn it on or off is in the 2211, but not the 2205. And I'm needing it. Is there any way like a patch could be done or?
So the patch on bug 30250, which is the one that adds the system preference you want.
Okay.
It theoretically could get backported to 2205. I guess I would start there. I can't remember who the release maintainer for 2205 is right now.
Okay.
But you could make a post on the bug asking if this could be backported to 2205. It's, it's filed as an enhancement in Bugzilla, which usually means it doesn't get backported, but it is, like, I think you've got a decent case that this really is not an enhancement for you. It's fixing a regression that has broken a workflow. And those would probably be the magic words to put in your comment on Bugzilla. This is a regression that has broken my workflow. And that won't necessarily get it backported, but it's likely to help.
Okay. Thank you. Even having, you gave me a next step that's better than nowhere.
I think with like the existing tools at hand, you probably mark modification templates are your best bet to just know that for now, when you change frameworks, you're also going to have to do some edits.
Yeah. Well, and it could be that, all right, you're just going to, I'll have to do it all. I have to just majorly watch those new records that are coming in or editing, and I have to manually do that instead of letting them do it. Or I just wait long enough and I just export them all and put it all in MarcEdit. But it breaks my workflow. That's the deal. It's taken power away from my local user and put it back on me. And I would rather it be in the hands of my local cataloger and not on me. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
There's also this bug, very retro bug, but someone had put out there, maybe we could add an RDA helper like MarcEdit has and the Koha, where you just click a button and it adds those 3x fields at least. but it doesn't have any traction and it hasn't had movement since 2015. But that's been on my like to dream list for a while, where like having a button on the basic editor where you pick from a list to say it's a book, and then it just pops in the 3x information, which I think I could code with jQuery if I had enough time and an empty like padded room to set in and work on. But I haven't. It's on my back burner list.
As I've looked, it looks like there are a lot of bugs that are related to this. And I'm like, okay, I just have to take the time to like look them all up, list them all and say, okay, here is how in this one, just make this and you fix all of these bugs. And then I think I have a chance of it like actually making it through, but it's collecting all these little bitty bugs that are written. I know Heather did that for the linking fields, and I feel like I'm trying to do that for RDA and item types. I just gotta research all those little bitty bugs, and
Yeah,
then
it
that
sounds,
takes time.
sounds like good work. Like it would be good to have done, but time consuming and a little tedious.
Yeah.
You feel like that answers your immediate needs though, Laura?
Yes, that answers my immediate need. I have to write a comment in a bug.
And Emily said in chat she thinks that Lucas from Bywater is the release maintainer, and that does sound right for 2205. I'm happy to give him a poke on Slack too. Just to suggest that he look at this book for backporting.
That would be, yeah, see, this is when I don't like that I'm unsupported. But
Yeah,
you know, it's not in the budget, so
fair enough. Well, does anybody else have system preferences that have been keeping them up nights, or other admin module questions?
We were trying to use the RealTimeHoldsQueue, which is a new feature, but it seemed what we had done before is we set things up so every couple hours it would reset the HoldsQueue and things would be randomized. But when we turned on the RealTimeHoldsQueue, it stopped that from happening, which was kind of an unanticipated result. Everything just would stick in the initial queue it got into. So I don't know. I think it was Montgomery that put that in there. So I was just curious about the kind of design of that RealTimeHoldsQueue and if that piece of it was considered.
Do you mean like you want to periodically like shake the Wordle container?
We want to shake it up because
Yeah.
we have a lot of libraries, and so every once in a while there's like some randomness that one library just gets a ton of requests, and it's nice to be able to say, hey, if you see that, just come back in 2 hours and it won't look so scary. You won't have hours of pulling items off the hold shelf. It's just kind of a random thing. We also have, because Colorado is a big state with mountain ranges, our courier service is not equal. It's not, so there's not everybody holds at the same rate, because you could fill them, but then they're just sitting in a box for a full week. So having that stuff move through helps us run things more efficiently. So it was kind of a key to it is kind of a key to how we operate. So we were hoping the RealTimeHoldsQueue would give us some additional features while maintaining our ability to keep things random, but it appears it did not do that.
So
sorry, go ahead.
We were the ones who requested that. And like for us, at least for the size of our library system, if it was re-randomizing the whole thing, it just like our system would not be able to handle it. there's probably something to be said for advocating in the community for being able to use both, though. Because originally you could use the cron job to shake everything up once in a while, and also use the real-time HoldsQueue. And then somebody, I don't remember which bug it was, I can look for it, but there was a tweak made to the cron where it wouldn't run if you had the real-time HoldsQueue enabled. But like there's your use case, and there's the use case of if you have the syspref to skip closed libraries, then like any holds that are placed when all of the libraries are closed just get missed entirely, which is also a use case to in favor of being able to use a hybrid of both. One thing I also want to share is we actually haven't even been able to use the real-time HoldsQueue yet, because without some other bugs that are in the system for multitasking, our system can't even keep up with the real-time HoldsQueue as it is. But we did some pretty extensive testing of it on our test server. And what we were finding in there was those like weird spikes where one library will end up with a huge list of holds weren't happening. At least in our test data, when we had the real-time HoldsQueue turned on, like I made a nice, charts in Excel and everything, and the proportions of where the holds were getting assigned exactly matched the proportions of our library size. As opposed to with the cron on that same exact test data, we still got the spikes. So, just sharing that we noticed. Obviously, I haven't been able to test it for any extended period of time with our real data yet because our system wasn't able to handle it. But either way, there is cause to advocate in the community for being able to use both at the same time.
So we're using the real time and the cron both on. We had, when we first set up, we were doing the real time HoldsQueue, and we were not selecting libraries that were closed, and we hit that bug where holds placed on Christmas never got filled. So we ended up switching to turn off library, don't fill libraries that are closed, but they left the cron, and the cron job was what was she set up to kick that bug in the pants and get things on the list. But we turned off the holds on closed days. It works better for us anyway. Just ignore it if it doesn't get filled based on how our hours are. But we're seeing that spike, and only one of our small branches really complaining about it. Every time that spike happens to them, they call and let us know. The others just seem to be putting up with it. What we was suggested that we could, make an order and put your large ones first and the small ones, but then the large ones would always, it didn't make a lot of sense. That if there was some kind of priority, say if it's here, choose one of these. If it's not here, then go to this tier 2 level or something, that we could kind of group them in some ways. If we could have a little bit more control, then it's either completely random or do it in this order. And it just doesn't seem to be a lot of in between, that we could protect those little guys who every now and then get that big spike. That and the courier delivery isn't there on the days they're closed. So it just seems to need a little more flexibility from what we're seeing. We have 18 buildings, but we're all closely packed together in one county.
Yeah, that sounds like a transport cost matrix might be something, and Jason knows more about that than I do.
Yeah, I looked at that and went, I'm not sure I want to go into there too much.
It's complicated.
It seemed overkill a little bit, but maybe that's something to investigate.
It does seem like it could accomplish the sort of tiered thing you want, but
yeah,
I think it just takes a while to set up, but once you have it, it runs pretty smoothly. We can't do it because we have over 100 branches, so the complications of setting that up would be mind-boggling.
My printout. Here's my transport cost matrix. It's all color coded, but it does it does do kind of what you're saying. So we've set it up into like different tiers. So like here at the system office, we're the highest because we have a large collection. So if we can fill a hole, we'll fill it first, unless the library owns the item. But then we've got like our larger libraries on a second tier, and then our our smaller libraries, and I've factored in calculations like what route they're on the courier, how many days they're open, that sort of thing. It is a pain to set up, and I would recommend doing the calculations and then having them put in on the back end, just if you've got lots of locations.
18, it's not that many.
Yeah,
It's
so
manageable.
that's not too bad, but
Yeah.
it works pretty well for us. But I'll say that we don't use the RealTimeHoldsQueue, and I haven't tried it yet because I was nervous about these sorts of things, about the randomization and how it actually interplays with the transport cost matrix. So
But it sort of, it sort of seems in our looking at what is going on that the randomness isn't randomly selecting, okay, I have this item right here needs to has a request, so I'm just going to randomly choose one of these libraries. It seems like every day it randomly chooses a library to be the first one to ask. And for that day, they're the ones at the top of the list, and they get all of the requests that they can fill before it moves on to the next and the rest. So it's just like, what's the random selection in the process? It's like, okay, today's your day. You get the spike. And then another day, someone else is that random first library that gets all of the requests.
Yeah,
That's
and
the only pattern we could see in how it's actually randomizing.
I
It didn't make
haven't
sense that there'd be
noticed
spikes
that.
otherwise.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't have that on. So, but
Yeah.
for us, it does seem to it does bounce between those libraries. And we a long time ago went to running the cron job every 15 minutes. It was like from 2 hours to 15. So it does bounce the things a lot more frequently. But it doesn't seem to build up on any one queue for us. So I don't know.
I'll look into that transport cost.
Sally, I'm kind of curious to know if those items have an active last seen date. We ran into this issue. So we, like Jason, used the transportation cost matrix. And we had I can't remember where the bug is, but if I can find it, I'll bring it up. It was we use it in our cron job runs once an hour. We do not have real-time holds. We're a couple versions behind everyone in Koha. But we were noticing that it should page at a certain branch or requested a certain branch, and it's not. It's going to the branch that had the most recent scene date of the item. So that's just something,
We'll look into that. Yeah. See if that's a clue. It doesn't, I don't know why the one branch that's complaining, normally their queue is like 15 to 20 items. And on the days they're complaining, it's 90.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a huge, it's a depth of a difference. It's not like 30 one day where they think, well, it's the day after holiday. It's a significant, and they don't own them, and they're kind of on the edge of the county, so they're not one of the busier locations. So it's not like they get more returns and would have more recently returned copies, but I'll certainly look into that.
But yeah, the transportation cost matrix we use ours based on our delivery route, and then our second tier is the sizes.
Okay.
So it works pretty well for us so far.
Thanks.
I put 2 bugs in the chat, taking them from the bottom up. Bug 32565 is the bug that Sally mentioned about holds that don't end up in the queue if you're using the RealTime queue and skipping closed libraries. Basically, if you're only using the RealTime queue and the library that has that item is closed at the moment the hold is placed, Koha says, well, I can't fill this hold. It doesn't go in the queue. And then it's lost forever. It's very sad. The other bug there, though, bug 31995, build holds queue should check if real-time syspref is on. That's the one that Emily mentioned that got added. It made it so that Koha, when the build holds queue job starts, it checks that system preference, and if the system preference is on, it kills the job. But Bob, you should be able to run that cron job with a force option to say, I know the syspref is on, do the job anyway. So what you were looking for of do real time, but periodically shake the system. What is that board game where you've got all the little cubes of letters in a plastic cube?
Boggle.
Thank you. Sorry, you shake the boggle container.
So how would I force it?
It's if you look at the cron job, it's a flag on the cron. It's
okay, so
force.
And since I can't mess with the cron jobs administratively, that means a ticket.
Yeah, and
okay.
Kyle wrote the code. Theoretically, he knows that it does that.
Okay, I can put in a ticket. Which is probably what I would have done anyway, but I was pretty happy I figured out how to fix the problem, so without having to do that.
So when you guys that have gone to the real-time HoldsQueue update, have you ever had a user who places a hold on material and their holds just don't show up on the queues?
We have not. That is absolutely Sally's bug, 32565, like with live. So if you're seeing that, it could be because of calendars and holds getting missed.
Even though that the hold still stays on the user's account, it just,
Yeah, it's, the hold is there and everyone can see it. It just never gets filled. It never appears on anyone's go grab this off the shelf list.
so I had, all right, that's a bug.
Yeah. I don't know if an item was checked back in, would it grab that hold? That in our, kind of hard to know because those holes got filled, so we weren't looking for them. But I don't know if that's part of it. I think it's just related to the queue, not that it would never get hold. If one got checked back in, it might trap it, but I don't know for sure on that.
Okay.
That sounds right. I would
Yeah.
expect it to trap even if it didn't show up on the queue.
So I was playing around with that and I placed a hold on the same record that this guy's hold was on, and his hold appeared on the queue. So,
And that makes some stupid sense. If there was something going on in the system at the moment he placed his hold that made it temporarily in that moment unfillable, and Koha then didn't put it in the queue. But then when you came back and touched the bib again to place a new hold, Koha like reevaluated and thought, oh, we can fill this hold, and tossed it in the queue.
okay. All right, so I'm not crazy and it is a bug. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Cool.
that does sound like somehow you've got holds that are not getting into the queue properly at point of placing, and probably you do want to get Bywater to run that cron once a day or something just to find anything that's gotten orphaned.
Okay.
Oh, yep. And Emily says, yes, the real-time holds queue checks all the holds on the bib whenever it's touched, which makes sense. Something has changed there. Rebecca tossed a bug into the chat. Oh, that hurts my head to think about. Bug 31557. Add ability for HoldsQueue builder to prioritize either matching a patron's home library to the item's home or holding library. Why have you done this to us, Rebecca?
Sorry, that's the bug that's referenced on the ticket about the transportation matrix.
Ah, okay.
So, but I think you wrote it.
I signed off on this bug and I remembered, I understood it at the time and its exact permutations and what it does, but I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Let me think about this. Oh yeah. The HoldsQueue does a dumb thing, and this is trying to make it be slightly less dumb. When Koha picks an item to fill a hold in the HoldsQueue, it will always give first preference to an item whose home library matches the hold pickup location. Because Koha assumes that's doing you the favor of sort of shepherding your book back to its home library in the process of filling a hold. Which is all well and good unless you're a library like us, who home library means nothing. Every single item in our collection shows our main branch is the home library. We really only care about holding library, so we want the HoldsQueue to go fight that instead.
Yep,
Yeah,
that
this
sounds
bug is
right.
dumb. So it's not a bug that's like actively breaking anything exactly, but it is resulting in transfers that don't need to happen and suboptimal hold prioritization. Which I suppose could be actively breaking something depending on the scale of your library. We're small and relaxed. I think they can wait. They'll get a book someday. Did folks have other hold related questions? Sally just unmuted herself.
I did. I was curious. Do you float everything then?
We do.
Wow.
There are a couple things like item types we don't float, like
Mhm.
hotspots and laptops always
Yeah.
go back to the, but really it's just the techie stuff. I can't talk today.
Yeah, we floated a few item types in Symfony before we migrated, and then when we migrated, it's like, let's just leave everything where it is. And we'll come back to that question later, but we haven't come back to that question yet. And people are getting a little antsy, like, we want some new stuff. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Give me a second. So we're evaluating like the rotating collection options because there's 2 of those, and who's
Sure.
going to manage those if we do that? And floating just kind of manages themselves, not terribly well, but they do. Whereas we could manage things moving around, but nobody really wants to dive in. We're all busy.
Yeah.
All right, I was just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, we
Everyone's-
float our collection too. I think there's only like a few item types. We actually set up item types that don't float, and then everything else just goes on its merry way. So, and then we built some reports to track where things are dying on the vine, and our collection staff call them back in or ask them to be sent, using transfers. So good luck.
That reminds me that I haven't looked up the Arlington Library Memorial bug for floating behavior recently, which I only think of as the Arlington bug because it's one I filed while we were doing your training, where the circ rules for whether or not something float don't get enforced as expected.
They're on the checkout branch, not the return branch or something like that.
Yeah.
But the good news is that branch has closed, been renovated, and is now reopening in April. So they're going to be a full functioning branch with no special cases. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a special libraries that are the hard part. Like we have a reference local history room inside of our central library, so nothing out of there circulates. And those special cases that always put Koha to the test.
Oh, here we go. Bug 25426. Allow return policy to be selected via syspref and not just home library. Oh, which actually is in 2211. Hooray. We'll make floating work better. Anybody else have fun Koha things to talk about?
I've got another one, unless someone else wants to go. All right, changing the image on for items in Koha. There's supposed to be like an upload next to the edit item where you can upload images, and it's not appearing on my system. I'm wondering if they removed that recently, or because I saw there was a Monday Minutes, but it was like a year ago. And my next test was to use the 856 and upload the image through there, and that didn't work either.
So have you been setting item level images rather than bib level images?
I tried both just
Okay.
to see if I could get either one to work, and no dice on either.
So you don't even have the option?
So here, I'll show you what I got.
Okay, because I do. I see it.
So there should be an upload right here.
Yeah, I have that. I'm not sure why, but I have that.
Yeah, I don't, and I tried the 856 to see if I could get this to pop up, but no dice. And I went through and created like the authorized value for cover art so that it would save the image. But all my tinkering hasn't brought any results. So
Jason, do you have a separate upload button? You have an edit button and an upload button?
So there's a little drop down arrow next to the edit button. And when I click
Okay.
it, the option to upload images there.
That's good. That's what my screen shows too. If we had 3 things, I was going to be like extra distressed. Since we only have 2 different things. That seems like it must be a system preference to turn that
It
on,
is a
but I don't.
syspref about, there is a syspref about local images. Try local image as a search. But I found that if you do that, then you can end up having 2 images. You get the standard one and the local one. So sorry, what it does is it calls up a standard one and then it says there's no image for the local.
Mhm.
So we don't use it.
Yeah,
I
it says
just-
bottom too. I have those turned on, the local cover images and OPAC local cover images.
Oh,
Yep, there
we
it
go.
is. I'll play around with that a little bit. But I also saw that one where it was custom remote URL images in the staff interface. So I might actually look at that one too. So, okie dokie, that was a fairly easy fix, hopefully. And thanks.
This is the first one we've actually solved today. We solved an issue.
Well, Emily gets kudos for that template toolkit stuff
Oh,
that I'm
yeah.
working on. So yeah.
2 things.
We're almost out of time and we haven't talked about SQL at all. How can we have been so cruel to SQL? Does anybody have reports questions?
I have a basic SQL question that I was hoping the group could help me on. I'll put this in. I noticed that we're using 2 different SQL statements for calculating age of a patron. I'm just kind of curious to know which one is more I mean, they both seem to give the same date, but I'm just wondering which one seems more appropriate to use. I kind of like to keep it all the same in all the reports if possible.
I like timestamp diff because it makes the computer think about it more and me think about it less.
Fair.
And like technically speaking, the floor date diff method is going to get a little wonky around leap years because not every year has 365 days in it, but that seems real persnickety.
Yeah, we're looking at just the year of birth, not the actual days. So, okay, thanks. Yeah, it was just something I had come across and I was like, I'm not sure which one is the right one to use. I mean, it's just how it is. Thanks.
You're welcome. I feel like I jumped on that and answered it with authority that I have not earned. Any other fun SQL things going on? Any other burning questions?
I would like a report to do this, but don't know if one exists and don't know enough about SQL to actually create one. It's somewhat of a log, but I'm wanting to know or get a report, run a report of all of the new records that were added within a month with who added them. There is a report in the SQL library for running a report that has, I think, biblio numbers, the title, the author. But I'm also wanting to know, like, the library that created it and the person instead of having to run a log? Is
If you've got your cataloging log turned on in the action logs, then you could run a report that would check the action logs in the cataloging module for the action type create and tell you which bib number that was and which user created it.
how do I do that?
I mean, look at there might be one in the library.
You can also, as an alternate option while he's looking, there's these system preferences where you can set a mark field to store the who created, who edited, and then you don't have to fight with the logs as much. You can just query the mark field for that information and use that to link it to the borrower table.
How, so we have turned that on and we have set up the information. What I don't know how to do is tell the report to include that information in the report. Again, my SQL knowledge is below beginner. I feel like it's even below very, very beginner, you know?
Here, let me share my screen. This is screen 2. So the link I just put into chat is to the reports library, specifically to the section about action logs.
Ah.
If I scroll up a bit, there's a section here that walks through like these are the different modules of the action logs and sort of how they break down because they're stored in the database in a slightly confusing fashion. Because why not? So that was the first thing I linked. But there is also, if I scroll back up, there's a section in here about querying Marc, how to grab the value out of any given Marc field out of a record. So that's what you would use to get that creator ID out.
Okay.
I did not immediately see a report that was going to do what we want for the cataloging log. But we could see here, we know that if we're looking at the cataloging log, we want the module cataloging with a U in it. And these are the available actions here. So if I do that, that's going to give me everything that's in the action logs, in the cataloging module, where they have added something. And one of the things it tells us over on that reports library page is that in the cataloging log, the info field is going to always give us the literal item or biblio. It's going to say either this was an item or this was a bib that got added or changed, followed by a dump of the data that went into the database.
Okay.
So this should be giving me the addition of bibs from the cataloging log. That doesn't give me much information here. This is just what's in the action logs table itself. But that's the borrower number of the librarian who created this record.
Okay.
And that's the bib number of the bib that was created.
Okay.
And that's when it happened. So then we can kind of tweak that around a little bit. But first, let's limit that timestamp. Louise, do you want the like previous calendar month? It's the one I always have to think about really hard. Last thing. Yeah, okay. And oh, then I wanted to uh, user, no, my brain's stopping. This name. Okay. Dang.
You didn't close your parentheses.
Thanks. Oh, okay, fine. Okay, so that's title and subtitle and the person who made it for things added to the catalog in the previous calendar month. Put that in the chat. And yeah, so you could go alternately. Jason's route of checking the mark field that has the person who created it and looking at the biblio table has a created date as well. And you could go off of that. I don't have any particular reason to think one's going to be more accurate than the other.
For us, it's the fact that we can't store logs that long, but that mark data is stored forever. So
Okay.
that's why we go that route.
Yeah, and Lauren, I don't know how long your action logs are kept.
I'm not sure I even know how long our action logs are kept.
There's a cron job that deletes those. It's called cleanup database. So it's by default. Let's see, I don't know. Bywater set the default for that for everybody. Very open question on your system.
Yes. I'm slowly learning what it means to have page support versus your own support.
There's a little library around here that has been on Koha forever. Like this guy Tim just installed it and set it up one day, and they were unsupported for years and years and years, and they went to Bywater support a year and a half ago because Tim said he wanted to retire someday. And that made sense to me. Like,
yeah,
it was working really fine for them so long as Tim never goes anywhere.
I know. Yeah.
Well, we're a bit past time. Oh, Emily shared some template toolkit stuff. Thank you, Emily. But yeah, we're a bit past time. Does anybody have any final thoughts or questions? Well, thank you all for coming. I'm looking for Daniel. Daniel, did you get Emily's link there out of the chat before I close the meeting?
Yep, I pounced on that.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. Y'all have a pleasant afternoon. Oh, and happy Valentine's Day.
Appreciate all the help. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks, everybody.